I've been sitting on this for a while, and I need to get it out. I don't know if I'm looking for advice, validation, or just to scream into the void. But here it is. My story, raw and unfiltered. This is long, so bear with me. I'm not a writer, just a guy who's been through hell and back. If you're a parent, you might get why this cuts so deep. If you've ever had to beg for help from family, you'll probably feel the sting too. It started 2 years ago, in the fall of 2023. I was 32, married to Sarah for 5 years, and we had a daughter, Mia, who was 3. Mia is everything to me. She's got this laugh that sounds like wind chimes, and her obsession with dinosaurs always cracked me up. She'd run around the house roaring like a T-Rex, her little pigtails bouncing. Sarah and I weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. We had our fights, sure, mostly about money or how we were raising Mia. But I figured that's just marriage, right? You work through it. Then Sarah started acting weird, distant. She'd stay late at her job. She was a graphic designer, freelancing mostly. And when she was home, she was glued to her phone. I asked her what was up, and she'd brush it off. Stress, she said. I believed her because I wanted to. I didn't want to think she was hiding something. But by Christmas, she was barely talking to me. I'd come home from my shift at the warehouse, exhausted, and she'd be in the bedroom with the door shut, texting or whispering on the phone. I tried to talk to her, but it was like talking to a brick wall. In January 2024, it all blew up. I found texts on her phone. Not proud of snooping, but I was desperate. She was talking to some guy named Ryan, someone she'd met through a client. The messages weren't explicit, but they were intimate. Plans to meet up, talk about starting over. My gut twisted. I confronted her, and she didn't even deny it. She just said, "I'm not happy, Jake. I haven't been for a long time." That was it. No screaming match, no tears, just cold. She said she wanted a divorce. I was blindsided, but I didn't fight her on it. I just wanted to keep things stable for Mia. We agreed to split custody 50-50. I moved out to a tiny apartment a few miles away, and we started this awkward dance of passing Mia back and forth. It sucked. But seeing Mia's face light up when I picked her up made it bearable. I'd take her to the park, read her stories, try to be the dad she deserved. Sarah seemed okay at first, like she was sticking to the plan. But I noticed little things. Mia's clothes were dirty sometimes, or she'd say stuff like, "Mommy's always with Ryan now." I didn't want to pry, but it worried me. Then, in April, it happened. I went to pick Mia up for my weekend, and no one answered the door. I called Sarah, texted her, nothing. I drove to her work, her friends' houses, even Ryan's place. I'd found his address in some divorce paperwork. Nobody knew where she was, or if they did, they weren't telling me. By Sunday, I was losing my mind. I called the police, filed a missing persons report for both Sarah and Mia. They told me it wasn't technically kidnapping since we hadn't finalized the custody agreement, but they'd look into it. Days turned into weeks, and nothing. No leads, no calls, no trace. My daughter was gone, and I was stuck in this nightmare where every morning I'd wake up hoping it was a bad dream, but it wasn't. I didn't know what to do. I'm not a rich guy. I make decent money at the warehouse, but it's not enough for private investigators or fancy lawyers. I hired a family law attorney, but she was up front, fighting a case like this, especially if Sarah had left the state or even the country, would cost thousands. Tens of thousands, maybe. I had maybe $2,000 in savings, and that was gone in a month on legal fees and a PI who turned up nothing. I was drowning, Emotionally, financially, all of it. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I saw a kid Mia's age at the grocery store, I'd have to run to the bathroom to cry so I wouldn't make a scene. That's when I turned to my parents. I've never been good at asking for help. Pride, I guess. But I was desperate. My mom and dad live a couple hours away, retired, comfortable, but not wealthy. They'd always been there for me growing up, bailing me out of dumb mistakes like when I crashed my car at 19 or needed a deposit for my first apartment. I drove to their house one weekend, sat them down, and just broke. I told them everything. Sarah, Mia, the legal mess, the money. I begged them to help with the legal fees. I didn't even know how much I needed, just that I couldn't do it alone. My mom cried with me, hugged me, said they'd do whatever they could. My dad, though, he was quiet. Too quiet. He's always been the stoic type, a pull-yourself-up guy who doesn't talk about feelings. I figured he was just processing. But when Mom went to make tea, he looked at me and said, "Jake, you need to let this go." I thought I'd misheard him. "Let what go?" I asked. "Mia," he said, "you're tearing yourself apart. Sarah's gone, and you're not going to find her. You're throwing money at a lost cause. You need to move on, start over." I just stared at him. My daughter, his granddaughter, was missing, and he was telling me to give up? I felt like I'd been slapped. "She's my kid, Dad. I can't just move on. She's out there somewhere, and I need to find her." He shook his head, like I was some naive kid. "You're not being realistic, Jake. You're going to bankrupt yourself. And for what? Sarah's probably halfway across the world by now. You think you're going to play hero and get Mia back? This isn't a movie. You need to grow up and face reality." I don't think I've ever been so angry in my life. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him understand that Mia wasn't some abstract problem I could just let go. She was my daughter, my everything. But he just sat there, arms crossed, like he'd already made up his mind. Mom came back in, saw the tension, and tried to smooth things over. She promised they'd help with what they could. But I could tell Dad wasn't on board. Later, she slipped me a check for $5,000. Her savings, she said, not Dad's. It was something, but it wasn't enough, and I knew it. I drove home that night feeling like I'd lost more than just Mia. My dad, the guy I'd looked up to my whole life, had basically told me to abandon my kid. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Was he always this cold? Or was this just him being practical? I kept replaying his words, wondering if I was the one being irrational. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was chasing a ghost. But every time I thought about giving up, I'd see Mia's face in my mind, her little T-Rex roar, and I'd know I couldn't stop. The next few months were a blur. I used Mom's money to keep the lawyer and PI on the case, but leads were thin. The police were useless, overworked, underfunded, didn't care unless there was hard evidence of foul play. I started posting on X, Reddit, anywhere I could, sharing Mia's picture, begging for tips. Most people were kind, but some were cruel, saying I must have done something to make Sarah run. I tried not to let it get to me, but it did. I was barely holding it together, working overtime to cover bills, barely sleeping. Then, in August, a break. The PI found a credit card transaction linked to Sarah in a small town in Oregon, 2,000 miles from where we lived in Ohio. It was the first real lead in months. I flew out there, maxing out my credit card, and spent a week driving around, showing Mia's picture at gas stations, diners, anywhere I could. Nobody had seen her, But one waitress at a truck stop said she'd seen a woman matching Sarah's description with a guy, probably Ryan, a few weeks back. They'd been passing through, she thought. I gave her my number, B. Begged her to call if she saw them again. I came back home with nothing but hope and a maxed out card. I called my parents again, told them about the lead. Mom was supportive, said she'd pray for us. Dad, though, he doubled down. You're chasing a fantasy, Jake, he said over the phone. You're going to ruin your life over this. Let her go. I hung up on him. I couldn't take it anymore. That was the last time I talked to him. It's been over a year now. Mom calls sometimes, but she doesn't bring up Dad, and I don't ask. The search for Mia is still ongoing. The PI is still working, though I can barely afford him. I've got a second job now, bartending nights, and every penny goes to the case. There have been a few more leads, sightings in Washington, then Idaho, but nothing solid. I keep Mia's picture on my phone's lock screen, and every night before I go to bed, I tell her I'm still looking. I don't know if she'll ever know how hard I'm fighting for her. I think about my dad a lot. I don't hate him, not really. I just don't understand him. How do you look at your son begging for help to find his kid and tell him to give up? Was he trying to protect me in his own messed up way? Or does he just not get it? I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever forgive him either. But I know I'll never stop looking for Mia. She's out there somewhere. And as long as I've got breath in me, I'm going to find her. If you've read this far, thanks. I don't know what I expect from posting this. Maybe just to feel less alone. If you've got advice, or hell, if you've been through something like this, let me know. I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up. Thank you all for the kind words and advice. A few of you asked for updates, so I'll try to keep you posted if anything changes. To those suggesting I start a GoFundMe, I'm thinking about it, but I'm hesitant. Feels weird asking strangers for money. Also, to the person who DM'd me about parental alienation, thank you. That's given me a lot to think about. I'll keep fighting for Mia no matter what.